We're kicking 2019 off with a bang, surrounded by the historic Calder Park Thunderdome for round one of the Hi-Tec Drift Allstars. Pro-Am and pro drivers alike in the pits exchanging tips, and a huge field joining us here today. I'm Dave Carter, up on the mic for another year. We've got Dan Mackey, head judge, joining us for some technical insight. And you know, as much as I love having you here, I can't help but miss my mate.
We all love Scott Schembri, and I've got to admit, it is awesome to see him back out there. And not just him, we've got the entire Blaze unit team back. Jabs is out there in his brand new S15. These two are going to be wicked.
Oh, it's so awesome to be back on the track with my mate Scoots here. New car for me. Scoots in the 350. I had a steer of that last season. Awesome twin turbo V8, and with Scoots behind the wheel, I'm just trying to keep up with him in my new S15.
I've always been a better driver than I have a commentator, so it's great to get back behind the wheel and have this opportunity for George and all the team. But out there we're battling both new cars. I've never driven the 350 before in my life. It's a whole new chassis. I've gone from a lightweight 180 SX with an SR20 in it to a big 350Z with a twin turbo V8. So we're pushing hard. We're here to put on a show for the crowd, have fun doing it. At the end of the day, if we're up there, we're up there. If not, we go home smiling.
I think today's going to be all about consistency. We did a little bit of damage. We found a little bit of dirt yesterday, so we've got to just tighten up the driving now. I got the boys to loosen it up, so what I've noticed in this morning's practice, we're able to get it up through the tighter sections without really having to work it. So, yeah, feeling good, confident today.
We had a few issues yesterday. We've done a steering rack and a wheel bearing and a couple other things. I bingled it a little bit in the morning, but I think we're pretty well right now after a couple of practice laps. I feel all right. Yeah, so we got a new tyre sponsor with the Valeno Figueras. They seem to be pretty good. We won the last round on them. We've done a full makeover on the car. We've stripped it down, put on the rotisserie, all sandblasted it, repainted it all, new sticky kit, and yeah, so it's all new, ready to race.
Oh yeah, look, you always go into a season with optimism, and to be honest, you just do the best you can every single round, and you know, at the end of the series, where you end up is where you end up. Probably the biggest change is I switched tyre manufacturers. I've gone to Accelera now. YHI bring them in, and super thankful that they come on board.
We've got a quick preview of the Calder Park Thunderdome here, and Dan, as the head judge, the guy's going to be critiquing these guys. I'll let you walk us through it.
Yeah, look, this track's all about getting out and hitting some speed first, getting up against that wall. I want to make sure they put a nice wide line. As you come off the bank, there's another wall there. That's a clipping zone for them to run along. Flick it back around, get real close to the grass, then run the tyres, back out to the wall, full throttle action, door on door, and hit the wall.
So Schembri's going to walk us through it here. You know, it was a bit far off the wall there, but this was an early practice run. He's going to demonstrate it for us. Now, this is all outside zone, so he has to get outside of that wall, and then bang, aggressive switch back to another outside zone here, and then clipping up against that outside zone of the barriers there. So that's why it's really difficult for these guys, Dan, is they've got to be acutely aware of where the rear of the car is. It's easy enough to hit a front clip with your front bumper, but behind you, you either get it right or very wrong.
Around this circuit, that's 100% the way it is. And we're going to see that here in qualifying as Calder Park throws it down with a pretty good run, not a bad run in his little 86, picking up many of the clipping points out there. He's going to go on to take the third spot, which was pretty impressive for Calder, and with a bit of luck, he's going to hope that no one goes and puts him and his brother Mo, who always seem to come up against each other, in the battles together.
Exciting to note that it is a local top three as well, with Michael Bonney sandwiched in between the two Al-Hooley brothers. You know, I wouldn't put this towards any home track advantage, though. All three of these guys were throwing down. You can see Bonney getting right out to the wall there, but no one has bowled on those outside clipping points as Mo Al-Hooley coming slaying into the center section here. Aggressive on the transition back and straight back on the power to blaze it for the crowd, slap it out the window. These Al-Hooley brothers have been such a good addition to the series, and I'm glad to see them getting points on the board early on. So there we have it. Mo Al-Hooley in front with 96, Michael Bonney and Calder Al-Hooley in there. Beau Yates qualifying fourth in a car that he's borrowed from John Dreyer as well. So shout outs to my boy John. This is going to be an interesting battle tree, that's for sure.
Beau Yates, 2018 champion. We thought you were out of the game after qualifying, saw the end of the Toyota Genuine Parts 8.6, but all of a sudden, a Series 1 Bluebird appeared. How is it out there in this thing?
Look, it's a fantastic little car. I mean, of any cars to pick out of the field, I know these little ones you can connect quite quickly. Very mechanical. They're a great little car to drive, but yeah, the poor little Genuine Parts 86 is still out there on the track. And I've come back here. My neighbour John Dre is from Dre Motorsport. They just said, look, jump in the Bluebird and do some qualifying, and we actually qualified 4th, which is great. So I'm just truly thankful to them to lend me the car, because John's here fighting for his own championship. So look, I don't want to impose on that, but I'll try and push through as far as I can to try and salvage some points.
Beau always throwing down not only interesting insights, but lessons in racecraft. Ultimate nice dude and knows how to be a sportsman out there on the field. Love that Gen Care Bluebird as well, about 350 kilowatt SR. But shout out as well to J-Mac joining us on the commentary team. What a legend, adding some excitement down in the pits. Speaking of excitement, we have Formula Drift driver Matt Van Kirk in a borrowed car here from Mo El Hooley in the lead, up against James Abbott in that new S15 for this season. It looked like Jabs was just expecting a little bit more speed from Matt Van Kirk through the midfield there, but unfortunately on the trailer early. Now we have Mr. Probert in X-Drift blazing it through the midsection here on a buy run.
A really well presented car that. These guys come all the way down from the Northern Territory. They're a really, really professional team. Put out all the vibes that we love to see. Speaking of guys from the Northern Territory, we've got Mitchell Doyle in another one of those borrowed cars. Damien Cook lending his beautifully prepared R33. And I am a bit of a fan of the 33. Don't know if it should have one of those boat anchor motors up the top. But, you know, great job there. Up against Chris Jager. Great to see him in the field. Killer driver. Some of the entries he's doing are amazing.
He's a wild boy, and speaking of, we got Michael Ginn here, out in front of that Dory Junkie Imports BN Sports sponsored JZX90, followed by Mickey Moo, the sniper with that aggressive 50 cal limiter bashing away from the 800 horsepower 2JZ out the back of that S13. It's a wild sounding car, and it looks like Michael Ginn here having mechanical issues early on.
So that brings us into our top 16. We've got Mo El Hooley in a battle against his teammate Matt Van Kirk. Senna Tunney up against Isaac Gett. Beau Yates is going to take on Danny Probert of the Battle of the Old Boys. Scott Schembri, first time out, versus Patrick Barley.
Michael Bonney and Chris Dieger are starting out the other side of the ladder. Two locals going hard. Angus Kidd in the freshly put back together Game On Motorsport Super up against Aaron Duar. Dabs the man. Kudar El Hooley and Mickey Moo will be doing battle. And Brad Toohey up against John Dreyer, the owner of that Gen Care Services Bluebird that Beau Yates is also driving on the other end of the tree. And Dan, we might see him go up against each other at some point.
Well, wouldn't that be an interesting one to see? What's going to happen there? I'd say that'll be the end of Beau Yates. He'll have to bow out of that point, but he's rescued his points like he wanted to. Here we go. We've got big boys out there. Number one qualifier, Mo El Hooley hitting the wall, and that's looking a bit messy.
He's cut through that middle section there, Dan, and you'd know more than anyone that is a big no-no in the judge's eyes. 100%. I think as a result of that barrier tap, he's just transitioned back a little bit shallow. We're going to see that here on the replay, so taps here on the wall, uses it to transition back, which works, keeps it smooth, but he's cut the middle off that track there with Matt Van Kirk doing his best to react to what he's seeing in front of him, getting back on the power, and then Mo El Hooley seemingly having some sort of mechanical issues, and there's the crew pushing it back into the pits. I'd say something driveline related for this car not to be operating under its own power.
Yeah, definitely. There's something really wrong with that car for those guys to be pushing it around. Unfortunately for Moe too, he's going to have a 10-0 advantage to going to Matt Van Kirk, and that by crossing that white line, that was basically you're allowed one wheel over it, 2 wheels are 0.
That's a hard thing to come back from, but if anyone can do it, it's the El Hooleys. Anyway, back to the battles. We've got Senna Tunney here in another borrowed car up against Isaac Gett, stepping it up after great success in the Famous Insurance Pro-Am Series to bring that DBS tuning R33 into battle with the big dogs. Looks like he's having a few issues back there, not able to maintain the drift, while Senna Tunney brings it straight across the line, out on the wall, spraying rubber wherever you like.
Certainly not something we're used to seeing from Isaac Gett. I'm wondering if he might have had an issue too. The track has been gripping up a lot as the day goes on, or sometimes, and it might have been as he's come off that bank in that little clip there that he's broken something. Still seems to have drive. He's had another go at it. Not quite sure, but it's a massive advantage to Senna.
That's something we'll learn more about as the positions are switched. You can see the DBS tuning R33 out in front now, blazing the rears. Nice bit of angle there across that outside clip zone that the judges are looking for. But Senna Tunney right there with Isaac. As they switch back, there's contact.
Wow, that was Senna Tunney all over the back, literally, of Isaac Gett. Got right up there. Going to take a little bit of time for us to nut that one out. We'll have to look at a few replays to get a result. Wow, what do you say?
It's a hard one because Isaac's coming down here. He's got plenty of speed. He's well within his rights out towards that wall there. Not quite as far as you go, but this is by no means an early transition. The car was set up and looking as if it was going that way. Senna is there chasing, but it is the responsibility of the chase driver to leave room. Obviously, you're the judge here, Dan, but to me it looks like Senna just didn't leave enough room.
Yeah, look, you can see what's happened there is that he's coming a little bit shallow, and you can see that really clearly from the view from Senna Tunney's car. Coming a little bit shallow, it's definitely Senna's problem there. He should have left the room, like you said, Dave, and he didn't. Cause the impact, loses the battle.
Now we're riding on board the Dr. Drift and Gen Care Services Bluebird, piloted by Beau Yates, who's leading Danny Probert all the way down from the Northern Territory in X Drift. Looks like he's cut just that little bit shallow there, going off the bank onto the flat surface. Easy enough for that transition to stitch you up, but coming through there with plenty of speed and power. And it's funny seeing that XD almost like a scaled up version of the Bluebird.
Yeah, they're very, very similar looking cars, and I guess cars of the time, you know, that's how they built them, big and tough back in the day. You have the little nimble Bluebirds and the big thumping XD Falcons. You see Danny's just made that error. He's come off that bank a little bit early, trying to gain some advantage. He knows Beau and that nimble Bluebird are very quick, so made the error and a big advantage through to Beau.
Position switch now, and X Drift out in front, while Beau Yates right there in the Gen Care Services Bluebird, reeling in that big power barra with the XD showing superior speed through the midsection, but everywhere else Beau is all over Danny Probert.
Danny Probert really liking it, being back in that lead position. You see he's got a much better line coming off that bank, didn't unsettle him like it was, pushes out to this outside rear zone, flicks it back across, lots of throttle, which is what we were asking for in driver's briefing, runs it out wide, picks up the outer zones, gets really up close to that wall. Much better lead from Danny, but unfortunately just a little bit too much to overcome from that big error in the first one.
Yeah, a bit of an error, and Beau just such a good chase driver there. You know, it's a hard one to overcome. Riding on board with the company car now, Scott Schembri taking the reins of the Hi-Tec Allstars 350Z. Aggressive on the flick there and throws it up the bank towards the wall. Really nice battle we're seeing here as well. Tight chase there from that white S13. Looks to have a lot of power under the bonnet, and man, is Patrick Barley driving the wheels off it as well.
Yeah, really pushing hard early on. Patrick Barley made a little error and might have missed a gear or something coming off the bank. I know some of the guys were pushing back from fourth back into third as they came off that bank, and maybe Patrick's just missed a gear, and that's, you can see him up on the door there with Schembri, and then just drops away. Schembri, however, not faced at all by it, pushing right out of the thing, and you see him just here tap this wall, boom, there it is. Little bit of a mark on the company car. Hi-Tec oils sticker going to need to be stuck straight over the top of that before the next run.
That's right, George will sort it right, mate. Here we go, Patrick Barley out in the lead here, slaying that outside wall position, coming through nicely on the outside clip there. Aggressive on the switchback as well, but Schembri just slowly reeling him in, leaving that calculated space. You can see the battle experience of Scott Schembri shining through there.
A great run from Patrick out in front, really threw down. You watch him here, he gets big angle and probably almost a better run in the lead position than Schembri threw down. He got right out to all of those clips, really gave him a good solid scare. But like you said, Dave, Scott Schembri just following Patrick around, picking up all the clips, making sure he's still filling those zones in the chase position. He's going to go all the way through, take the win and move on into the next bracket.
This is going to be a battle to watch. We've got two locals throwing down on a familiar track. Michael Bonney in that huge power nitrous JZ S15 up against Chris Diego, naturally aspirated LS S15 that we may have seen last year with Jake Kennedy behind the wheel in Pro-Am. But Chris Diego, new name in the series and very experienced driver, throwing down a killer chase, but Michael Bonney, almost impossible to reel back in that big power S15.
Yeah, pretty much textbook run there from Michael Bonney out in the lead. He absolutely clipped all of those clipping zones, didn't miss one, didn't leave one on the park. Left it up to Chris, who does a great job in the chase position. Awesome driver to watch. Normally I'd expect him a little bit closer than that. Just goes to show how quick that Michael Bonney machine is out in the front. Blazing away out there out of that final zone.
Big power met with big grip, and I often hear Michael Bonney talking about pumping those rear tyres up just to try and get that car to spin him. Be interesting to see that car at its full speed, but man, does it seem comfortable there behind Chris Diego, switching back there tight, and a big mistake there, no! That is going to be critical for Michael Bonney there in otherwise a clean advantage in the rest of the battle.
Yeah, look, he was losing a couple of points just as we look at the good ride replay here by having slightly shallower angle, but it was probably overcome by the amount of proximity and aggression he was showing. Drops the wheel there, hooks the thing up, throws the whole lot away, and sometimes that can just be being a little bit too aggressive, a little bit too early. Maybe could have sat back just a quarter of a metre more and taken the win. As it is, Krista Jager will go through into the next bracket.
It's a hard one, and you know Michael Bonney fights hard, but I am excited to see Krista Jager here and driving, so we'll see some more battles there. As Angus Kidd seems to have a few mechanical issues, entering, going out against the barrier there, but straightening the car straight back up. It's been a real hard weekend for Angus Kidd. You know, backing his car into a wall, getting it back together within 3 hours and back out on the track. Seems to be having potentially gearbox or maybe diff issues there as well. It's heartbreaking after towing so far down. That being said, we do love seeing a fantastic result for Aaron Duar there. One of the true nice guys in the sport, and a whole family effort to get this wickedly fast S14 down to every single track day.
Great job from Aaron to avoid Angus Kidd there, actually, as something's obviously not quite right with that Super after they put it back together. You've got to remember that game on Super has had a real hard time running on the Velino tyres this weekend for the first time. Managed to shear 5 studs off the rear wheel earlier on the weekend, then put that all back together. As you said before, hit the wall, the boys turned it back around, got it out for qualifying, managed to snag P7, so it was clearly working well in qualifying. A little big gap to try and come back from now though.
Yeah, I visited Angus Kidd's workshop there, and he was smashing away trying to get this car together, and it's amazing how so much time and effort can all be boiled down into heartbreak. So I truly feel for him, but at the same time and in the same breath, man, is it good to see Aaron Duar just linking together flawless event after event, nailing judge lines, really getting comfortable with the competition driving format and showing that he's a name that deserves to be on the podium. I can't wait to see him progress through this tree.
Yeah, that was definitely a cool battle. And if you think about it, Angus is kind of where Aaron was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So Angus will keep going at it. He's got some good backers in the game. Whoa, what's happening here?
Tip it in! I think they're just caught a little bit off guard on the transition back there. Kuda fighting power steering issues throughout practice and testing, so it looks like that might not be holding up as he transitioned back there, just not able to get the wheel from lock to lock quick enough and finding himself in a 360. That allowed Mickey Moo to go through and do a relatively clean run otherwise, put some easy points on the board, but we are receiving word from the pits that Kuda has called his 5-minute rule. Hopefully he's able to get this car back out and steering correctly, because you can see there that the wheels remain straight on the transition back. There was no counter steer there, so I'd say something steering related going on. While that's being sorted out in the pits, here's Brad Toohey leading John Dreyer.
Great job there from the Dreyer Motorsport guys to strap another set of tyres on. You remember, you've just seen this car in the hands of Beau the Show Yates, but now he's going to take it out into combat up against Brad Toohey. Brad having some dramas off season, trying to get this car up and ready, and it looks like having some dramas out there today as well.
Yeah, it doesn't seem too comfortable with the way that 86 is steering, especially through the tighter and slower bits. You know, twin supercharged V8 under the bonnet, it's got no trouble blowing the rears off, but when it comes to that finite control of getting to the outside edge here and then trying to switch that car back, it just seemed to have a bit of a front lock-up, and all the wise fab in the world couldn't save Brad Toohey there, unfortunately. So hopefully he gets a bit more comfortable throughout the battles, but this could be a blessing for John Dreyer to take that Dr. Drift tuned mid 300 kilowatt, I believe, over 350, 360 kilowatt SR20, and a light little Bluebird pushing its way through to the end of the ladder.
Well, Brad Toohey's always known for his big angles, and we saw a little bit too much of it in the first run. Big thing to come back from, unfortunately, for that little Bluebird and all its kilowatts. It's now going to have to go through and into the top 8. He'll be facing up against either Kuda El Hurley or Mickey Moo. Mickey got the big advantage with Kuda's first spin. Going to be very interesting to see what's happening, and I'm hearing that J-Mac might have a little bit of information for us down in the pits.
I'm in the freshly vacated pit bay of Kuda El Hurley. You can see him out there in the blue 86. They have had a frantic 5 minutes to diagnose a seized power steering pump. Now, El Hurley has driven the car without power steering in the past, although by admission of his own crew members, it wasn't a pretty sight. Back to you.
Seems like they've managed to get that back together, and whatever they weren't able to fix on the car, Kuda will just make up for with sheer driving ability. Chasing down Mickey Moo now with intermittent power steering. Man, is that a hard thing to wrangle, especially through a tight section like this, surrounded by walls. But Kuda doing a fantastic job here, chasing down Mickey Moo. Fantastic proximity there, but will it be able to overcome the big 360 at the beginning?
I don't know if you saw it, Dave, but just here on this switchback, I'm pretty sure Mickey's dropped. He has 2 wheels to hand, a 10-0 back. We're going to go OMT. Mickey Moo, maybe it's just because it's his first run in pro, maybe not, maybe a little bit of nerves, I don't know, but all he had to do is hit those clips, not overrun them, and it would have been all good.
Tell you what though, I love this GarageWorks logo. I always find myself hypnotised by that big turbo, and I like that you got the camera placed looking down the snout of the turbo and into the turbo blades. Anyway, back to the battle at hand, and Calder Hawley putting together a smooth lead run considering that steering wheel would have been fighting him every bit of the way, but Mickey Moo also learning through his mistakes and keeping those tyres on the black stuff.
Mickey Moo did a pretty good job here, although he has shadowed a little bit to gain proximity. Calder out in the lead though, as you said earlier, he's just picking up all the clips, a little bit off it there, but Mickey Moo a fairly big straight in that section, not really enjoying being in that chase position. We didn't see it in the first run because of Calder's early spin. Let's see how he goes out in the lead. He's going to need to do a pretty special one here.
Nicely entered from both of them there. Mickey going out to the outside clip, using the outside zone here. Looks to be out to the wall at least from the on-car, but a big straight in there on the transition back, just missing it by a couple of milliseconds, while Calder right there behind him and across the line.
Well, I mean, Calder got a redemption there with those 2 wheels off. And like all good drivers, guys that have been doing this for many, many, many years, you don't give these guys a second opportunity because they know how to execute, they know how to take it. Calder doing everything he needed to. He knew where his strengths were. He needed to get a good lap together. He did that, and then he just followed along on the door. He'll get the win who goes into the top 8.
Great drive, and that puts Calder Hawley through into the top 8 battle tree. He's going to be facing off against John Dreyer, while Krista Yeager and Aaron Juardu battle. We'll also have Matt Van Kirk up against Isaac Gett, and Beau Yates versus Scott Schembri to round out our top 8. That's what you've got to look forward to on the other side of the break at Calder Park Thunderdome for round 1 of the Drift All-Stars. Famous Insurance Pro-Am Series coming up as well, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back to round 1 of the Hi-Tec Drift All-Stars down at the historic Calder Park Thunderdome. Drivers navigating the banks and transition changes here throughout what is a very technically challenging drift layout. We've had both the pros and soon to be the Pro-Ams finding their feet, battling the Festival of Walls here, and I've got head judge Dan Mackey joining me to point out exactly what they're doing right and where they're losing points.
Dave, it's been a fantastic top 16. I'm really looking forward to the top 8. Back again this year is the Good Ride tyres. Let's get down to J-Mac in the pits and have a bit of a chat.
It is my pleasure to welcome Good Ride onto the series. They're massive partners alongside Hi-Tec Oils and, of course, also sponsoring the Hi-Tec Blaze unit. It's an incredible thing, of course, yourself being the owner and founder of Good Ride. It's a brilliant platform to promote from, isn't it? Drifting's unreal.
Yes, that's right. It's great to promote our brand. Also associate with so many drifting car drivers, feel like a very interesting and popular industry.
Theo Ranella, you're the director here of operations for Good Ride in Australia. Around for 12 years. It's a great brand, isn't it?
It is certainly a great brand, actually. It's a product which, not just in drifting, but we have performance tyres for everyday driving, passenger tyres. Four-wheel drive is a huge part of our business, as was with truck tyres. We've got a complete range, Bobcat tyres, forklift tyres, OTR tyres. So it's a great product, produced for many, many years, and we welcome the opportunity to be able to sponsor the drifting in Australia.
Straight back into the action, we've got the top 8 of the Hi-Tec Pro class. First cabs off the rank. Scott Schembri going up against Beau Yates in that borrowed GenCare Services Bluebird of John Dreyer.
This is going to be an epic battle, Dave. I'm really looking forward to seeing this. Beau in a borrowed car, Scott in a brand new car. So pretty much new. Scott's had a little bit more wheel time. But these guys are fierce competitors from way back. You can see Scott a little bit shallow in the chase there early on. He's got to get it out there to the back. Otherwise, there's going to be lots of deductions there. They flick it back around and, well, there's contact there. There was a little bit of contact there. Definitely, and I think a lot of that's going to be attributed to Scott being shallow, coming all the way down off that bank through those outer zones. It gives him a lot more wheel speed to catch in.
The on-car view there from the GenCare Services Bluebird kind of made that a little bit obvious, and for those of you not as familiar with the rules, contact is fair game until it alters the line of the lead car. And you watch here, bang, back of the Bluebird gets moved around as a result of the contact, which just pushes him wide into the tyres and contacted the wall there. Would you agree with that, Dan?
Absolutely. Scott's shallow angle bringing him much faster onto the back of that Dreyer Motorsport Bluebird, pushing him into the wall there. That's a fair bit of contact too. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of damage under that car. But yeah, definitely this one, all Scott's fault. Shallow angle equals faster catch up, means big hit when you do a contact.
It's a hard one because, you know, you're looking to be the faster car there and really, you know, make your presence known. But it is the responsibility of the chase car to get close, but not touch. Next battle up, we've got Matt Van Kirk up against Isaac Gett, who we're riding on board with now in the DBS Tuning R33 Skyline. That borrowed Garage Works S14 has a lot of pace there with Matt Van Kirk behind the wheel, but unable to shake Isaac Gett, who's staying there with him. Yes, the proximity might not be as tight as we've seen in other battles, but he's definitely there and matching the pace. So as these positions switch, it's really going to be on Matt Van Kirk to see if he can better the proximity demonstrated by Isaac there. So really going to be on the chase driver. Anyway, we're in the pits now looking at Beau Yates, who has called his 5-minute rule. Didn't seem too comfortable with the way that car was steering, and also checking over some of the damage after contacting that wall there after the slight collision between Scott Schembri and himself.
Yeah, good to see the boys looking like they've got that punch pretty much buttoned up. We look at the Good Ride replay here. You can see Matt Van Kirk really starting to come to terms with that right-hand drive car. Very used to a left-hand drive car back in the States, so he's got to look a little bit further over that window to see those zones. But he's getting dialed in. Isaac Gett right up there on his door. I'm hearing from the pitch, though, that J-Mac might have a bit of information, so let's get down there and have a listen to him.
I had a chat to Beau Yates through the window as he was doing his helmet up. I asked him, does everything feel like it's still intact in that Bluebird that he's borrowing for today? He said, well, at the moment it feels like it. I won't know until I actually take it for a bit of a drive, throw some speed at it and see if anything's gone awry. Schembri, well, I have to say, some of the stuff coming out of his mouth we can't repeat for live television, but hopefully he's going to be able to pull through just fine in the Blaze unit car. Back to you guys.
Scott Schembri we're riding on board with now after that 5-minute rule has been called. It's now Scott's turn to chase. You can see that car doesn't have a centre mirror because it doesn't need it. Scott's rule is if you're in the lead, you lead. You don't look back. You don't see what's going on behind you. And it works very well for him in situations like this where Beau Yates is all over that door and applying the pressure to the Hi-Tec Allstars 350Z. Very tidy chase run there from Beau Yates, who seemed to lose it a bit across the line, but luckily that's after the judge section.
A great run from Scott there. I always love to see Scott drive when he's just a little bit upset. This time maybe a little bit more than usual, but certainly if you watch him as he takes off, he throws it hard on the wall, then gets out right onto that white line where we asked him to be. Picks up this clip, look at that, just about hanging the rear wing over the back there. Switches it across nicely, lots of speed, lots of aggression, and Beau Yates, considering he wasn't sure whether that car was going to steer or right, doing a pretty good chase to chase him down.
Really solid battle between these two, and I think if it wasn't for the contact, we might have seen it one more time. But Kitten Ultra confirming for us there that Beau Yates has gotten the nod, and that car will be going through to the top 4. Scott, being the ultimate nice guy, giving John Dreyer a bit of a hug, just saying sorry for hitting your car, mate, but at least you get to see Beau go through and continue battling with it.
Yeah, I know that Scott's not going to be too happy about that. He's a very, very fierce competitor. He's not going to want to see that go down. Back to the action now. We've got Isaac Gett leading Matt Van Kirk, and look at Matt, he is all over the door of Isaac. Isaac leading a really good lead line, and the key with a good chase is you've got to have a good lead line to be able to get that across the road, Dave. So Isaac laying down a good lead line, Matt Van Kirk taking all of those opportunities. What a run.
Really nice chase technique there from Matt, you know, keeping that angle minimal and controlling road speed to stick exactly where he needed to be up against that DVS tuning R33 Skyline of Isaac Gett, tucking in nicely around that bottom corner and just showing the judges that in that final stage, he had the extra pace if he needed it, but he was reeling it back and demonstrating control.
Yeah, good run there from Matt. Almost getting across the lines now. You've got to remember too, in the chase position, you can run one wheel across those lines and still be okay on the inside there. Looking like some pretty interesting discussion from Beau and Scott down in the pits. I'm sure we'll hear more about that in later times.
Speaking of interesting though, battle of the naturally aspirated V8 S chassis here. We've got Chris Yeager, who's been throwing down some of the hardest entries we've seen the whole way through the event. Practice qualifying battles, doesn't matter, consistent back-to-back entries, with Aaron Jouar coming in hard there on the chase, really gapping up some speed there and showing that he does have the superior speed in that Jouar Racing Engine's S14, but seemed to come in just that little bit too hot, then having to back the power off and get back on, and just not quite finding his rhythm there behind Chris Yeager.
Yeah, Aaron doing a little bit the same as what Scott had done in that battle with Beau. Coming in a bit hot there, catching himself out, getting up a bit close. Managed to stop without an impact, but you can see running out of room. Let's get down to J-Mac and see what's in the pits.
Beau Yates, wow, what a run. It was a controversial decision when it was received here in the pits. How's everything look with the car?
Yeah, unfortunately on my lead, when we went to switch through the middle, Scott tagged me and I was like in the process, because this is just a H-pattern gearbox. I was trying to go back to second, and as it hit me, then I missed second gear, and I thought I was going to go into the tyres on the outside, and then Scott hit me again, and we ended up in the tyres. So unfortunate to Scott and the guys. I know they do an immense job down there, and he's in a new car this weekend. But look, I just feel for John, to be honest. Like, I promised him I wouldn't put a mark on it, and the front's damaged, the rear's damaged. So look, I hope the car's just good for him to race.
It's conversations like that that clarify exactly the sacrifice that John Dreyer has made to allow Beau Yates to go through and have a drive. No one has a perfect day out and about drifting, and there's another example of that there. Chris Yeager being caught out by the transition down off the bank that he's been talking about being a car killer the whole time he's been down here, and something that watching the replay will give us a definition of. If you cut the shallow line through here, as Chris did, bang, the car comes down, front wheels get unloaded off the surface, and if you aren't holding on to that and prepared to pull that car up, you will find yourself in a wall. So valiant effort there by Chris Yeager managing to pull that car back, while Aaron Jouar goes through and claims the win, gets himself through one step closer to the podium. Nice drive from Aaron Jouar. But just to finish the comments I was making before, John Dreyer making a huge sacrifice to let Beau Yates drive. Now John battling in a car that may be a little worse for wear after a battle that he didn't even compete in. What a sacrifice John has made. I'm so glad to see him out here and battling and throwing down against another local, Calder Hooley in the Garage Works 8.6.
Well, I'm definitely sure that John might be saying, I don't care how banged up and beat up the car is, I want an opportunity this top four, and if I get there and get up against Beau Yates, I can take him out.
Yeah, it's a wild card way to play it, isn't it? Is if you get up there, mate, well, I know that one guy is probably going to be in the top four. I can just take the keys back off him, but no, that's not how John would be thinking. He just wants to see each and every competitor here have a good weekend so he can throw down side by side with them, as he's about to here with Calder Hooley battling away against that non-functional power steering in the Garage Works 8.6, battling away with a big power turbo LS. Heavy steering. What a valiant drive we are seeing from Calder Hooley, nailing that judge line. Seems to be putting the car exactly where he wants it. He must have arms of steel.
Yeah, really hard work for Calder in there. You can see him working away on that handbrake to try and overcome some of that steering that he doesn't get. Now the powering steering pump has gone and he's running with all that extra weight. You can see those wheels fighting to get back onto lock. Pretty difficult car to drive. Great lead run from John Dreyer. Let's get back down to the pits, have a chat with J-Mac and Schembri.
Scott, plain and simple, in your own words, describe what happened with Beau Yates.
Oh, mate, you know, obviously we pushed 110%. I'm still figuring this car out. You know, we came in that transition. I was all over Yates' door. Yeah, he's in a borrow car too. Obviously a lot slower than me, but I thought in that transition he slowed down pretty much, and I had nowhere to go, so I hit him. You know, it is what it is at the end of the day. So, yeah, it's motorsport, man. I mean, Yates would do it again and have a laugh about it.
That's what I love about drifting compared to any other motorsport. You can be out here looking for blood and more competitive than anyone else in the field, but still come away with a smile on your face regardless of where you end up, as long as the car's not bent. Speaking of, we've got Kuda here battling away. I'm sure a huge smile on his face as he wrestles that power steering with John Dreyer. Again, stoked to see his car running double time, probably not even switched off in the pits between battles. Throwing down a fantastic entry there, hard on the brakes to try and pull that Bluebird up and ending up with a straight. And I reckon if he would have held on to that one, that would have been a big tick in the judges' eyes, right, Dan?
Absolutely, that was a great throw in. We all thought it was awesome. The Good Ride replay picking that up perfectly. And as if this car didn't need enough work, sending this one for an OMT, I almost felt sorry for it. It was such a wicked battle the first time. I wanted to see it again. We sent it again. John out there slaying those tyres now, right up against that clip. He knows he's got a lift and he might push Kuda to an error. Not quite Kuda. The better driver, like I said before, these professional drivers have been doing it for a long time. You give them a second look, they're going to take it down. But great to see John really pushing, stepping up, taking it on with the big boys. He's making a name for himself in Australian drifting, and well, he should, Dave.
Very, very good driver. I've had the chance to drive with him a couple of times and thoroughly enjoy it each time. Predictable, throws down huge entries, drives with such an aggressive grassroots driving style, but in this case the battle hasn't gone his way, and Calder Park, who I have the utmost respect for as well, has found himself a position in the top 4.
Well, Kuda's going to go up against Aaron Dewar. On the other side of the tree, it's going to be Matt Van Kirk up against Beau Yates, both in borrowed cars this weekend. I'm sure Matt would love an opportunity to take Beau on in his own car, but that's going to have to wait for another day.
That's a battle we can't wait to see resolved, but first we're going to head to a quick break before diving into the top 4 of the Hi-Tec Drift All-Stars. Welcome back to the first round of 2019 for the Hi-Tec Drift All-Stars. We're down at the Calder Park Thunderdome, bringing the roadshow down to Victoria and watching some local talent battle it out and defend their home turf. We've seen killer battles so far and a top 4 stacked with local talent in the Hi-Tec Pro Series. But first, we're going to dip back into the Pro-Am to see how that top 4 shaped up, thanks to Famous Insurance.
Great to see Matt Grice getting up into a top 4 early on. He's going up against Jason Hayden. Steve Cerrone is going to be taking on Jeff Hayes. The wildcard entry, we give away a wildcard entry in all of the drift for reals that we have on, the practice day we have on before the main event, and Jeff was lucky enough to win it. Looking forward to seeing him have a crack and throw down, see if he can't make it onto the podium.
Before we get there though, Matty Grice, after multiple mechanical issues all the way through last year, has found himself to the top of the qualifying order, throwing down out here against each and every wall and getting those outside clips down. But Jason Hayden, in what is a very cool looking S14, sticking it close to Matty Grice pretty much the whole way through the battles there, and through that last tight section, just tapping the barrier and running out of steam a bit.
Yeah, that final error there has just done it for Jason. Unfortunately, you're going to hand a big advantage. You can see him there clipping that barrier pretty hard by the looks of it, taking that rear bar off. Famous Insurance replay showing us there. Matt Grice coming through. Jason just, quite a big hit. Just trying to improve on that line and get right up on his door for the final section. Big advantage to Matty Grice. Let's see who's going into the final.
Oh, well, any hit from the strut tower's back. Do not worry, bro. Jason Hayden flipping around, running it again. But Matt Grice there all over him in that beautiful old Commodore with the big turbo LS under the bonnet. Seems to have no trouble sticking into the door of Jason Hayden and flexing the skill that Grice has been able to develop over the past year or, well, couple of years of drifting, but at least a year in the Hi-Tec series.
Yeah, Matt Grice really stepping it up. I was lucky enough that Matty was happy to take me out for a couple of laps earlier on in the weekend just to show me where we were going on the line that I'd set, so I could give him a few pointers and just get a feel for it out there on the tarmac.
Next in our Famous Insurance Pro-Am battles, we have a familiar face in Steve Cerrone up against our wildcard winner from the Drift for Real event yesterday. Jeff Hayes out in the lead and showing some serious speed as a local driver who just came out to shred some tyres and has ended up with a chance at the trophy in the Famous Insurance Pro-Am.
Well, an interesting thing there you see on his bonnet, Down DC there. Jeff is the owner and operator of a media company, Down DC. They do some killer vids. They're down here with the Hi-Tec Drift Australia Series to do a promo vid for the series. Jeff thought he'd throw his car in, have a bit of a skid on the practice day, won the wild card, got some tyres, threw it out, qualified up the top. Here he is in the top 4. What a fairy tale story.
You can see why he's earned himself that wild card entry though. Really, really familiar with this Calder Park Thunderdome layout and all the barriers that you need to find your way to. Let's see how he goes in the chase while Steve Cerrone chucks it up the bank there, nice and close to that outside clipping zone. Will he ride the outside white line? He's gone pretty close there and nearly scraping the barrier there. Nice transition, but Jeff Hayes is right there with Steve Cerrone as they come through this final judge section. Both of them together there, Steve Cerrone with an exceptional line out on the barriers, but I think the proximity of Jeff Hayes combined with his killer lead run is really going to help him.
Look at that touch, that little wall touch there from Steve Cerrone. You said he got close, I was pretty sure he hit it. The famous insurance replay shows that that was the way. Unfortunately though for Steve Cerrone, Jeff Hayes in an absolute killer chase is going to take down that and go into the final.
So there is our final battles tree decided. We will have Matty Grice as our top qualifier going up against Jeff Hayes to battle it out for first, while Steven Cerrone and Jason will battle it out for that third place trophy. Before we get into that though, the top 4 of our pro class, the main event, we have Beau Yates up on the line here in that borrowed car from John Dreyer in the Gen Care Services Bluebird, going up against Formula Drift star Matt Van Kirk in the Garage Works Turbo LS right-hand drive S14 Sylvia. Got to watch out which side that e-brake's on as he comes round here off the bank through the middle section. No problems with proximity, seeming very comfortable with that right-hand drive car now. But Beau Yates showing the line that we're looking for here, right to the track edge, right to the barrier, tap of the tyres, and that poor Gen Care Bluebird gets itself another scar for the weekend from Beau Yates.
Well, I mean, you look at now as we go into the good ride replay here, Beau Yates just pushing hard, getting those lines, trying to pick them all up. He said to John Dre he wasn't going to bend it. I suppose that corner was already bent, but he's tapped it there. That was the advantage that Matt Van Kirk needed. You can see him millimetre perfect in the chase. Boom, gets the wall, gets a tap from Matt, and it's all over from there.
Hey, on the upside, at least that Hakasuka-style wing that has turned into a Dr. Drift billboard is still largely intact. So, you know, if you end up with a different shell, John, you can always move it onto that, I guess.
I guess that's the benefit of having a wing that doesn't overhang the edge of the car. It always gets a little bit of leeway before you get to it.
Hey, I don't know how functional it is, but that little Bluebird definitely has some pace, sticking it to the rear quarter of Matt Van Kirk the whole way through that run there. Beau looked stoked. He's given it a couple of hand signs out the window. He seemed maybe a little bit confused there with what's happened with Matt Van Kirk through the end of the run, but he's switching it back nicely, using all of that track out through all of the clipping zones here. Bit of a correction and tap of the barrier there, but a fantastic drive from Matt Van Kirk and earning himself that win from Kitten Ultra.
Yeah, great run from Matt Van Kirk. He really, really drove that well, and he's been progressing all weekend. But now we're going to find out who he's going up against. Could it be his Garage Works teammate, Kuda El Hooley, in that really immaculately prepared 86? Picking up all the clips, hitting them all. As I say that, it's almost commentator's curse. I've made him cross that white line. A small error, pushed Aaron Dewar in a little bit further. That's going to even the battle up a little bit.
Really hard one to call there, both of these drivers putting in a valiant effort as they come through the final section here. Aaron Dewar has just been driving so well in recent years, and I'm glad to see that he's bringing that aggression, but also the lessons from previous years to just dial it back that little bit in the chase, stack the points, and prepare yourself for where he really shines out in the lead. Watch him throw it down.
This is going to be a killer battle. Dabs always blazes the tyres out there. Kuda's got to stay where he is now in the pocket. Otherwise, he's going to lose him in that tyre smoke. Catches so many drivers out. A little error from Kuda. Oh, this could be what changes it. Cross the line now.
Tell you what though, that error from Kuda was as a result of a huge entry on the transition. I think he may have just forgotten how the power steering isn't really helping him out there. Look at that. If he would have managed to hold that, that's a big tick in my eyes for being more aggressive as the chase driver. And you know what? I feel like the judges have had some empathy there for the mechanical issues that he's up against and the fact that he could battle so well. So I agree with Calder El Hooley just getting the nod there.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Kuda just getting the nod on that one. When we went back and looked at both battles, versing each other. It was Kuda that did the better job and was more dominant driver overall. So we're looking forward to seeing Matt Van Kirk in the final up against Kuda El Huli in the Team Garage Works cars.
First, though, we will see our Pro-Am tree run undone. We've got Steve Cerrone here chasing down Jason Hayden in that big Wang S14. It's a really cool-looking car. I dig that kind of panda paint scheme going on with the kit and the Wang. It's a very stylish-looking car, and so is Steve Cerrone's. A 180SX that seems to just get beaten and beaten and beaten, and it's just back every single time. Kit on, looking great, motor singing. And man, that little RB25 gets a real hard time. So big ups to Steve Cerrone and all the team, the Cerrone family behind that car for getting that thing to each and every event. But Hayden out in front, man, some speed out of that S14.
Yeah, well, the S14 sporting the big 2J. You know, we always talk about the 2J versus RB. I'm going to say it's a little bit advantage towards the 2J in that one. Just not quite the proximity we wanted. Let's see if Jason can improve on that in the chase position.
Steve Cerrone out there on the track edge. It looked like Hayden just slightly better, at least through the middle section there, but not filling out the outside clip on the wall. Steve Cerrone nicely to that outside wall. They're scraping it again. He's really not afraid to put the quarters of that 180 on the line for a trophy. Fantastic lead run there from Steve Cerrone.
Well, we missed it earlier on in the day as the top 16 battles aren't televised for this field, but Steve Cerrone actually climbed up that wall, got 2 wheels off the ground, then came plummeting back down to it with a big thud. The boys checked the car over, decided it was all good to go. He's still not even scared of it, giving that little tap.
How perfect was that tap, though? You could see his helmet move, but the car didn't change line. Like, that's such a fine art and a well-deserved third-place trophy there for Steve Cerrone. How these two will end up will be a result of this battle, though, with Jeff Hayes chasing down our top qualifier, Matty Grice.
Yeah, this is going to be a great battle. These boys have been driving really well all this time, and it looks like we might have a DB there from Gricey. I'm sure he's going to pull out of the drift at some point, or is he?
Nah, just stay into it, mate. Yo-yoing that rear bar around behind the Commodore. I mean, if it wasn't for all the stickers in the crowd, I'd swear we're in an industrial estate after that one. It was a pretty wild ride, but seemed to be a D-bead as he comes through. Watch it slow down here. Bang. Boom. So I think it's the additional pressure of coming down off the bank and loading up that tyre, which admittedly is probably on a pretty low pressure chasing grip there. So hopefully Gricey's pumped a bit more air into it now, as he will be chasing down Jeff Hayes.
Great job from Jeff Hayes too, not to hit that Commodore in front of him. Really hard because the speed does change a little bit. Not a lot, but Gricey able to keep that thing going. Great chase through from Jeff as well and avoid him there. He's doing an excellent job out here in the lead too, hitting all those clips, picking them all up. Gricey right there behind him. I'm going to have to go and watch some replays, Dave.
Yeah, it's hard work. I'll let you fiddle away with the pen there while I talk you through what I saw in the Famous Insurance replay. Jeff Hayes going wide there, Gricey staying with him. Perfect emulation there on the switchback, but Jeff Hayes just seemed to have the superior speed there, and I can see why he's gotten the nod from the judges. Shows you what a wild card can do. Jeff Hayes, first round of the season, walked his way into an entry and straight to the top of the Pro-Am ladder. So he's got a 14-point lead there over his next closest competitor to Matthew Grice. If he wants to defend that, we're hoping we'll see him at Wakefield at round 2 and through the rest of the season, because it's a good position to defend and puts him in the running for that final trophy.
Well, it just goes to show why these wildcards are so important, Dave. You know, we pick up this talent in these practice days. We give them an opportunity to get out there and battle. Sometimes they haven't even had an opportunity to do it. In this case, we saw Jeff out there killing it out there every day, and he's been rewarded with some killer battles. But before we get around to talking any more about that, here's this pro third place battle. This is going to be a good one. The Dr. Drift tuned 350 kilowatt little SR20 Bluebird. We've got a mate up in Queensland, he's got a red one with an SR and a similar power figure. He'll be loving this.
Such a cool chassis, and John has done so much work tuning that. With big shout out to Stewie Bryan, who developed the Acostal Motorsports front end in that car as well. Great local made alternative to Wisefab that's got a bit of Ackerman adjustment in there, and it's cool to see someone like Beau Yates being dropped into this chassis that's been developed around John Dreher's driving style, but seeming perfectly at home with it. And you know, it does have a background in some lighter cars, but it would be a very different chassis. Aaron Jouard, though, the comfort just shines through there. He's been in this S14 for a number of years now. I still reckon one of the fastest mid-corner cars in the comp. Very lightweight and a very quick car. Watch as Aaron Jouard steers it through this midsection here. Snappy transition, back on the power. Will he be able to gap Beau Yates?
Oh, great run from Aaron Dewar there. Beau Yates, though, all over his door. This one might come down to a little bit of lead line. You can see that Aaron's just a fraction off the required line, being right up against that wall and then out the white line on the start. Managed to pick it up in the second half, and Beau, through all of that, used him as a clip. Done a great job. Beau's going to take home the third place trophy.
Hard one to call, but Dewar, we know he's going to be back in Hungary next time round. And I got to say, I'm loving the look of his car lately with that cool vinyls, the tie writing on it especially. It makes it look like it's a car out of a video game, almost like one of those little FR Legends cars. I dig it.
I'm sure it's going to end up in a video game at one stage. These days, with all these graphical arts, they keep building, I don't know what you call them, skins of cars. Is that what you call them, Dave? But they throw them into these video games these days. It looks awesome to be able to drive your own car.
Pretty rad, and a lot of these cars on the outside are now looking like video games cars, so it's a real good feedback loop here, and drifting really seems to be a bit of a style icon.
Look at this chase. He's all over him, Matt Van Kook. Really throwing down. He's just been progressing through, knows what he needs to do. I think he's adjusting and learning to what the judges are looking for as well. We gave them a good feedback. We've been talking to them all weekend, and that was a killer chase. Look at this, just closes up in the door, maintains that angle, sees a little bit of an opportunity to shallow a bit and catch up. A little bit of a deduction for that because we did want him to stay on it, but for the rest of the battle, he is right there on Cooter's door.
Man, that must be a weird feeling. Imagine being in Cooter's shoes, driving the Garage Works 86, looking back and watching yourself get doored by a car that you built and lent to someone. Man.
Well, this is going to be even weirder because now he's got to get up there and door his own car. Knowing Cooter, and I have done for many years, competed against him back in the day, he won't care. He's happy to fix two doors on his own cars, having a big dive there. Again, same as Matt, a little bit shallow going in there, but right up on his door, another great chase.
Yeah, cool to see it, and as much as there's double the risk, there's also double the reward of Cooter going up against an international driver here, looking to throw down on his home turf. Looked like, going back to the replay, Cooter just that little bit shallow on the entry here, and that's carried through the rest of the course. So he's ended up just a little bit further off the barrier as they switch back. He's ended up just that bit earlier again than Matt Van Kook, and then two front wheels across that inside line there means a 0-point result for him and handing the advantage there to Matt Van Kook.
We've seen it all weekend. That shallower line coming off the bank has just encouraged guys to come up too fast onto doors, and it causes the issues.
I want to give big thanks to Hi-Tec for letting me come to this event. Nicole brought me to Australia. I met the guys over at Garage Works. They helped me put this car together in just 2 weeks, and it was a hurdle, it was a lot of late hours, and I appreciate all of them for all their help and staying up late all the nights and getting it done.
What a way to conclude the first round of 2019. We've got international Formula Drift driver Matt Van Kook right at the top of the ladder in a borrowed car that he got from the Al-Hooley brothers, one of which, Cooter, has found himself in second position. And then our previous series champion, Beau Yates, down in third position in a borrowed car after the Toyota Genuine Parts 86 cut some dry sub lines with the tail shaft. So big upset there. Aaron Dewar and Scott Schembri also putting points on the board. But we'll see each of these drivers getting a chance to shuffle that order up again at round 2. Wakefield Park Raceway, one of my favourites in Goulburn, New South Wales on May 10th and 11th. Each and every one of these drivers, including Matt Van Kook, who has confirmed that he'll be coming back, will be defending the points that they've been able to accrue just from round 1. There's another 4 to go, and man, this is going to be one cracking year.
It's been an awesome round so far. I've really enjoyed watching some really close battles, and to show the depth of the field, Matt Van Kook came all the way from P16 qualifying to take it right through the battle tree. He learnt what he needed to do as he progressed through to take a well-deserved victory.
The drivers have deserved their victory, but we as an audience have deserved some victory skids. Oh, what a warm and tingly way to finish off an event as these cars go back on the trailer. We'll see you guys at round 2. Thanks for joining us.